the Nerve Gear virtual reality gaming console is released to the public, along with the world's first virtual reality game, Sword Art Online. A beta tester named Kirito logs in and visits Aincrad, where he quickly befriends a fellow novice player named Klein, to whom he teaches the game's basics, including how to defeat a boar. A few hours later, Kirito and Klein discover that they are unable to log out. Akihiko Kayaba, the game's creator and an employee of the computer corporation Argus, informs the players that he purposefully removed the option to log out, and that players will die if either their Nerve Gear helmet or their in-game health bar is depleted to 0. He also admits that he made this game to become God over his own dominion, and that the only way to exit the game is to clear all of Aincrad's 100 floors. Over 2,000 players have already died. 1 month later, Kirito attends a meeting called by fellow beta tester Diaval, who informs the attendees that his party has discovered the boss of the first floor, Ilfang the Kobold Lord. Kirito teams up with a mysterious young girl named Asuna as the players team up to prepare for battle. The next day, Diaval and the players arrive at the boss room the next day to battle Ilfang and his minions. With his dying breath, Diaval tells Kirito to defeat the boss and save the players at all costs. After Kirito successfully defeats Ilfang, the other players accuse him of murdering Diaval because he had prior knowledge about Ilfang that he did not share with the other players, and they label him a beater, a combination of the words beta tester and cheater. Kirito accepts the title and the prize for defeating Ilfang, a black leather trench coat, which quickly becomes his signature. By stepping through the gate, he becomes the first person to clear the first floor. Kirito joins the Moonlit Black Cats Guild but keeps his character level hidden because it is much higher than the other guild members. Sachai, a guild member, confesses to Kirito that she is afraid of dying, but Kirito reassures her. As the guild's leader, Keita leaves to buy a house for the guild. Kirito and the other guild members visit the 27th floor, where they discover and open a treasure chest. This, however, sets off a trap that summons an army of monsters to surround Kirito and the guild. Kirito stands helpless as the monsters slaughter the entire guild, including Sachai, leaving him as the sole survivor. Keita commits suicide after learning of his guild's death and Kirito's higher level. Kirito then travels to the 35th floor, where he defeats a secret boss named Nicholas the Renegade in order to obtain an item capable of reviving a dead player. However, after learning that the item is only effective within 10 seconds of a player's death, Kirito gives it to Klein instead. Later that night, Kirito receives a pre-recorded message from Sachai instructing him not to blame himself and to carry on with his life. After being caught up in a dispute, a female beast tamer named Silica leaves her party and walks through a forest, only to be ambushed by a group of apes. Silica's dragon familiar, Pina, is killed while protecting her, but Kirito arrives to save Silica and kill the apes. Kirito agrees to take Silica to the 47th floor in 3 days to retrieve an item that can revive in-game creatures like Pina. He forewarns her about orange players who commit crimes and red players who commit murder. After defeating a plant monster and retrieving the item, which turns out to be a flower, they are confronted by Rosalia, the leader of Titan's Hand, Silica's party of orange players. Kirito intended to accompany Silica in order to entice and apprehend Titan's Hand. Kirito easily outmatches and detains the guild members thanks to an ability that regenerates his health bar instantly from multiple attacks. Silica later thanks Kirito for his assistance and employs the flower to resurrect Pina. On the 56th floor, Asuna proposes luring a boss into a village, but Kirito objects because it may result in the deaths of non-player character villagers. Asuna persuades Kirito to rest and relax in a field on the 59th floor one afternoon, and she later repays him with dinner at a restaurant for watching over her. When they hear a scream, they rush outside to find a church where a player named Kainz has been hanged from a noose and impaled with a spear before dying. As Kirito and Asuna investigate the murder, they suspect an unknown player killer, and they learn that Yoko and her boyfriend Kainz were formerly members of the Golden Apple Guild, which has since disbanded. They learn from a merchant owner, Agil, that the spear was forged by Grimlock, the husband of Griselda, the Golden Apple's leader. Griselda was murdered 6 months ago while attempting to sell a valuable ring she had obtained by defeating a boss. Yoko is killed by a knife thrown through the window after realizing Grimlock is the suspect. Kirito is unable to track down Grimlock, who is dressed in a black robe and holding a teleport crystal. Kirito later drops a sandwich given to him by Asuna and realizes that Kainz and Yoko faked their deaths by using a similar teleport crystal. Meanwhile, at Grisela's grave, Yoko and Kainz disguise themselves and question a former guild member named Schmidt to determine if he is the true suspect. But he pleads and proves his innocence. Yoko, Kainz, and Schmidt are soon confronted by the Laughing Coffin, a guild of rouge players who murder other players for fun. But Kirito arrives and forces the guild to retreat. Kirito then discovers that Grimlock desired Grisela's death in order to obtain the ring for himself. Asuna apprehends Grimlock, who admits that Grisela was happier in the virtual world than in the real world and that he was afraid she would leave him one day. Kirito and Asuna see Grisela by her grave before disappearing after Yoko, Kainz, Schmidt, and Grimlock leave. Kirito visits Asuna's friend Lisbeth in her blacksmith shop on the 48th floor to request a custom-made sword. Lisbeth is astounded to discover that Kirito's current sword, Elucidator, is strong enough to destroy the strongest sword she has ever forged, and she convinces Kirito to take her to the 55th floor to obtain a rare mineral from a crystal dragon, which she will use to create an even stronger sword. When they reach the 55th floor, they discover the rare mineral inside the deep pit of the crystal dragon's nest. Lisbeth develops romantic feelings for Kirito during their time together, which are strengthened when Kirito defeats the crystal dragon and escorts her to safety. Lisbeth uses the rare mineral to forge a new sword for Kirito called the Dark Repulsor. As she then attempts to confess her love to Kirito, Asuna arrives and interrupts them. Lisbeth becomes heartbroken and runs away, quickly realizing Kirito and Asuna have mutual strong romantic feelings for each other. Kirito later finds Lisbeth at a riverbank and thanks her for the time that they spent together. In turn, Lisbeth welcomes Kirito to her blacksmith shop anytime he needs to stop by. On the 74th floor, Asuna's escort, Kirito, opposes Asuna's inviting Kirito to her home after he learns that Kirito is a beater. But Asuna disregards him. On the 61st floor, Asuna welcomes Kirito to her home, and they eat the meal she prepared in a stew. Asuna convinces Kirito to team up with her, despite him preferring to be a solo player. The next day, the two head back to the 74th floor, where Kirito challenges Kirito to a duel to prove who can best protect Asuna. Kirito easily defeats Kirito by breaking his sword. Kirito refuses to admit that he lost to a beater and accuses Kirito of cheating. Asuna uses her authority as the second in command of her notorious guild, the Knights of the Blood Oath, to order Kirito to return to the guild's headquarters. Kirito and Asuna later clear the dungeon and discover the boss room on the 74th floor. Kirito and Asuna flee the boss room upon seeing the Gleam Eyes, the boss in the form of a chimera. The two encounter and greet Klein and his guild, Furingkazen, when a player named Kobats and his guild, called the Aincrad Liberation Force, appear. Kirito complies with giving Kobats the map of the dungeon, despite Asuna and Klein's objections. Kirito, Asuna, and Klein enter the boss's room only to find Kobats dead and the Aincrad Liberation Force badly injured. The trio charge at the Gleam Eyes, but find that the boss is too difficult to defeat. This forces Kirito to execute his secret unique skill, dual-wielding his two swords, to defeat the Gleam Eyes. Kirito collapses from loss of health, but Asuna embraces him. News of Kirito's unique dual-wielding attracts the attention of Heathcliff, leader of the Knights of the Blood Oath, who challenges Kirito to a duel. If Kirito wins, Asuna can quit the guild, but if Kirito loses, he must join the guild. On the 75th floor, Asuna warns Kirito that Heathcliff has a skill that grants him maximum strength with his sword and defense with his shield. During the duel in an arena, Kirito attempts to strike Heathcliff, but the latter manages to parry it and defeats the former. Later on the 55th floor, after Kirito confides in Asuna that he averted joining guilds due to the incident with the Moonlit Black Cats, fellow guild member Godfrey summons Kirito and Kirito, taking them through a canyon to a dungeon on the 55th floor for a skill assessment. As they stop to take a break from their travels, Kirito and Godfrey realize that Kirito tainted the water to paralyze them. After brutally murdering Godfrey, Kirito reveals himself as a member of Laughing Coffin. As Kirito tortures Kirito, Asuna arrives just before Kirito runs out of health and gives him an antidote crystal. Kirito deceitfully surrenders to Asuna and tries to attack, but Kirito defends Asuna and kills Kirito. Kirito and Asuna kiss, promising to never leave each other. Kirito requests to stay the night with Asuna at her house, and there they agree to marry. Kirito and Asuna have an online marriage in which they are granted a temporary leave from the Knights of the Blood Oath to go on a honeymoon at a village in a log cabin on the 22nd floor. As they venture deep into a nearby forest, they find a lost girl who suddenly collapses, and they discover that there may be a possible glitch since she does not have a cursor above her. so they end up taking her back to their log cabin for the night. The next day, the girl wakes up and remembers her name is Yui, and she decides to refer to Kirito and Asuna as her parents. The three of them go to the first floor to find out if anyone is searching for Yui. They encounter the Anicapped Liberation Force extorting taxes from a daycare owner named Sasha and three of the children in her care. Asuna instills fear in the Anicapped Liberation Force with the use of her sword, causing them to retreat. Yui soon starts to panic and momentarily glitches before being rendered unconscious again. At the daycare center inside a church, Kirito, Asuna, Yui, and Sasha are visited by Yulier, second in command of the Anicapped Liberation Force. Yulier explains that Thinker, leader of the Anicapped Liberation Force, was overthrown by Kibeao, who trapped Thinker in a dungeon on the first floor 3 days ago. Yulier, Kirito, Asuna, and Yui agree to help Yulier rescue Thinker. As they clear the dungeon and find Thinker, they are ambushed by a boss named the Fatal Scythe. Yui steps in and destroys the Fatal Scythe in a ball of fire, revealing that she is an indestructible in-game object. Kirito and Asuna discover that Yui is an artificial intelligence character designed to aid the players, but was forced to monitor them instead. Yui admits that she felt like a daughter to Kirito and Asuna when she interacted with them. Yui is then sentenced to deletion due to her interference with the game, but Kirito manages to use the Game Master console to save Yui from complete deletion by transforming her data into an in-game item, a crystal drop that he gives to Asuna. Kirito invites him to his home for Asuna to cook the fish he caught for them. Soon after, Kirito receives a message from Heathcliff. Kirito and Asuna meet up at the guild's headquarters, where they learn that a party of 20 guild members had been trapped and killed in the boss room on the 75th floor. A team of players from several guilds, including Kirito, Asuna, Klein, and Agile, are assembled together. Once inside, the team battles the terrifying boss of the 75th floor, the Skull Reaper. After the Skull Reaper is finally defeated, Kirito deduces that Heathcliff is secretly Akihiko Kayaba's avatar, exposing him as indestructible and revealing him as the boss of the 100th floor. Heathcliff paralyzes everyone except Kirito and challenges him to a duel with an equally matched opponent, promising that the remaining players will be logged out of the game if Kirito wins, to which Kirito accepts the challenge and fights Heathcliff. Heathcliff slays Kirito, but Kirito overrides the health bar and defeats Heathcliff, thereby clearing the game. He congratulates them on clearing the game and bids them farewell. In the real world, Kirito wakes up in a hospital and sets off to find Asuna. And this brings the anime to an end. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on another video.